Well, friends, it looks like Donald Trump must think he can fire his way out of ethical military leadership. He fired the Judge Advocate General for the Army, for the Navy, for the Air Force. Here's the thing. Donald Trump doesn't know anything about the JAG Corps. Let's talk about that, because justice matters. Hey all, Glenn Kirshner here. So friends, you probably saw the new reporting about Donald Trump firing the 3 top lawyers in the military services, what we call the TJAGs. T, just for the word, the Judge Advocate General for the Army, the Judge Advocate General for the Navy, and the Judge Advocate General for the Air Force. The top lawyers in the military services who are there to make sure our military services, our Secretary of Defense and our Commander-in-Chief, the President of the United States, are acting lawfully. So, of course, Donald Trump felt compelled to get rid of them. Let's start with the new reporting, and then let's talk about why, from this old JAGS perspective, I was active duty Army JAG for 6.5 years as a prosecutor, first in the trial courts handling court-martial cases, and then in the appeals courts handling things like death penalty and espionage cases. From this old JAGS perspective, Donald Trump's move is a dramatic miscalculation, and we'll talk about why that is in a minute, but let's start with the new reporting. This from The Hill. Headline, Hegseth. Fired military lawyers were potential roadblocks to Trump's orders. And that article begins, Defense Secretary Pete Hegseth said Monday that the 3 fired Judge Advocates General, JAGs, were potential roadblocks to President Trump's orders. And The Hill notes, the JAG's job is to provide independent legal guidance to senior military officers in the Pentagon and on the battlefields to avoid potential legal issues with U.S. or international laws surrounding armed conflict. Okay, friends, so let's talk about what JAG officers do. JAG officers give legal advice to commanders all the way up and down the military chain, from the platoon commander to the company commander to the battalion commander to the division commander to the regiment commander, and all the way up to the top of the military leadership, and indeed to the civilian leadership as well. JAGs give advice on things like law of war, rules of engagement, the Geneva Conventions, and perhaps most importantly, given where we are in this lawless presidential administration, JAGs give advice on what orders constitute lawful orders and what orders constitute unlawful orders. You know, in the Army alone, there are about 2,000, give or take, active duty JAG officers trying to keep the Army on, the straight and narrow when it comes to acting lawfully, not doing anything that would violate the law, would violate the Constitution. Across all of the military services, there are about 5,000 active duty JAG officers, give and take. In the reserves, there are thousands more JAGs. These are the folks who try to keep the military acting in a way that comports with the law, civilian law, military law, the law of war, the Geneva Conventions, rules of engagement, etc. And friends, this is perhaps the most important thing to know about military JAG officers. There is one bedrock principle about the rule of law that we are all taught. I was first taught it as an ROTC cadet when I was in college. I was next taught it in officer basic training. I was taught it again at the Army's JAG school. after you go to law school, you graduate, you pass a bar exam, then you enter Army Law School and you learn about military law before you are posted up for your first assignment. I was taught this lesson over and over and over again, as is every other JAG officer across all of the military services. We must obey lawful orders, but even more importantly, we must disobey unlawful orders. That is a bedrock principle. Every JAG knows it. The thousands and thousands of active duty and reserve corps JAG officers. And if Donald Trump thinks he can fire his way out of ethical JAG leadership across the military services, he is out of his damn mind. And he knows even less about the military than we suspect he knows. We know how he regards folks who decide to join the military and serve a cause bigger than themselves. He thinks they're suckers and losers. He says, why would anybody ever do that? And he, of course, is the original Captain Bone Spurs, which prevented him from serving. Doesn't seem to hamper his golf game at all. But if he thinks he can fire his way through the thousands of JAGs until he gets to, judge advocates general that he can appoint that will support him in the event he issues unlawful orders through his Secretary of Defense, Pete Hegseth, he's got another thing coming. That ain't gonna happen, at least not in the estimation of this old former JAG officer, because you know what? I agree and stand with General Milley when he said, we in the military don't pledge loyalty or fealty to a dictator, to a tyrant, to an autocrat, to a man. We pledge loyalty to the Constitution. And we are duty bound to disobey unlawful orders, including from a commander-in-chief, from a president, because we all know, as Army JAGs and Air Force JAGs and Navy JAGs, we all know that justice matters. Friends, please stay safe. Please stay tuned. And I look forward to talking with you all again tomorrow.